There's a specific Monday morning that lives in almost everyone's head. The alarm goes off at 6 a.m., it's still dark outside, and for about 4 seconds, before your brain fully boots up, you lie there and think the same thought millions of people think at the exact same moment. What if I just didn't go? Not called in sick, not took a vacation day, just never went back. Ever. Most people let that thought float away because it feels like a fantasy, like wishing you could fly. But here's what almost nobody realizes. There's an actual number attached to that fantasy, a specific dollar amount that, once you hit it, makes the alarm clock optional for the rest of your life. And it's not the number you think it is. Every financial guru on earth will tell you it's some terrifying figure, 10 million, 20 million, a number so big you might as well give up. But that's a lie. And it's a profitable lie for the people selling it. Because the real number isn't based on how much you make. It's based on something almost nobody calculates. And it's usually a fraction of what you've been told. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, the psychology of work, and why some people quietly buy back their entire lives while everyone else assumes it's impossible. If you've ever done that 6 a.m. math in your head and wondered what your actual freedom number is, hit subscribe and give this a thumbs up. Because by the end of this video, you'll be able to calculate yours on the back of a napkin. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Okay, let's start stupidly simple, because the entire personal finance industry has buried this under jargon on purpose. The amount of money you need to never work again comes down to one rule. It's called the 4% rule. And here's the whole thing in one sentence. You can safely pull about 4% out of your investments every year, basically forever, without running out of money. That's it. That's the machine. Now, flip that around, because this is where it gets useful. If 4% is what you can pull out each year, then the pile you need is just your yearly spending times 25. 25 times. Tattoo that somewhere. You want to spend $40,000 a year without a job? 40,000 times 25 is $1 million. You want to spend 80,000 a year? 2 million. That's the formula the whole game runs on, and you just learned it in under a minute. Most people with finance degrees couldn't explain it that cleanly, and that's not a compliment to you. It's an insult to finance degrees. But hold on, where does 4% even come from? Because this sounds suspiciously like something a guy made up. It's not. Back in the 1990s, a financial advisor named William Bengen ran the numbers on every 30-year stretch in American market history. Every brutal decade. The Great Depression, the 1970s when inflation ate everything, the crashes, the wars, the recessions. And he asked one question. How much could someone pull out of a balanced portfolio every year and still not go broke over 30 years, even if they retired at the worst possible moment in history? The answer came back at around 4%. So when you've got 25 times your annual spending invested, your money is throwing off enough every year to cover your life. Your portfolio quietly gets a job so you don't have to. The dividends and the growth replace your paycheck, and you never touch the core pile. That's the invisible machine. You're not spending your money. You're spending the money your money makes.
Now, here's the part that flips everything, and it's the single most important idea in this entire video. Notice what that formula does not include. Your salary, your income. How much you make has nothing to do with your freedom number. It's built entirely on one thing: how much you spend. Read that again, because it breaks people's brains. The guy making $400,000 a year who spends every penny of it needs $10 million to be free. The woman making $60,000 who lives on 40 needs $1 million. She is closer to never working again than he is, and he out-earns her by 6 times. The lever isn't your paycheck, it's your spending. And that means the number is far more in your control than anyone ever told you. Because you can't always control your income, but you have enormous control over the size of the life you choose to fund. So let's run the real numbers, because this is where most people get scared and then quietly relieved.
Let's say you live a normal, comfortable life on $40,000 a year. Your freedom number is $1 million. And I know, a million sounds like a fantasy. But watch what happens when you actually build it instead of staring at it. If you invest around $1,000 a month and earn an average 8% return, you don't get to $1 million in 80 years. You get there in about 30. Start at 25, you're free before 60 with room to spare. Bump it to $1,500 a month and you shave years off. And here's the cruel, beautiful twist of compound interest that we've talked about before. The first 100,000 is the hardest, most painful stretch of the entire journey. It feels like pushing a boulder uphill. But the last 100,000 before your million, your investments generate most of that themselves while you barely lift a finger. The math is brutal at the start and almost effortless at the end. Most people quit during the boulder phase and never find out the hill flattens out. Quick favor, before we get into the part nobody wants to hear. If this video is making the number feel real for the first time, hit the like button. It's free, it takes a second, and it tells the algorithm that regular people actually want to understand this stuff instead of being sold a course about it. Okay, back to it.
Because now I have to be honest with you about the cracks, since every guru conveniently forgets to mention them. The 4% rule isn't magic. It's a probability, not a guarantee, and there are two things that can bite it. The first is something with a scary name and a simple idea: sequence of returns risk. It just means timing matters. If the market crashes hard in the first few years after you stop working, while you're pulling money out, you can do real damage to the pile before it ever gets a chance to recover. The same crash 20 years in barely scratches you. Same drop, completely different outcome, purely because of when it lands. The second crack is inflation, the quiet thief. Your $40,000 life today might cost $60,000 in 20 years, and your number has to keep up. The good news is the 4% rule was already stress tested against the worst inflation America ever recorded and still survived. The bad news is it survived. It didn't thrive. So the smart move isn't to treat 4% as gospel, it's to build in a little cushion. Some people aim for 3.5% to be safe, which just means a slightly bigger pile. Some stay flexible and spend a little less in bad market years. The rule is a starting line, not a finish line. Anyone who sells it to you as a guarantee is selling you something.
But here's the reframe that changes everything, and it's the open loop I promised you at the start. The number is smaller than you think. Because somewhere along the way, we all absorbed this idea that freedom is all or nothing. Either you have the full pile and you quit forever, or we're trapped at the desk until you're 70. That's a false choice. There's a stage in between that almost nobody talks about, and it's called coast-fi. Here's the idea. Once you've invested enough early on, compound interest can carry you to your full freedom number on its own, without you adding another dollar. Run the math. If you're 30 and you've got around $200,000 invested, that pile alone, growing at 8%, becomes roughly $1 million by the time you're 60. You don't have to save another cent for retirement. Ever. You still have to cover your bills today, sure, but you've already won the retirement game in the background. And the moment you realize that, work changes. You're not chained to the highest paying job you can tolerate. You can take the lower stress one. You can go part-time. You can take the risk on the thing you actually want to do because your future is already funded and quietly compounding without you. That's the secret the all-or-nothing crowd never tells you. You don't need the whole million in your hand to buy back most of your freedom. You need enough to take your foot off the throat of your own life.
So what do you actually do with this? Real quick, because I get asked constantly how I even research and script videos like this, turning something as dry as withdrawal rate math into something people watch for 20 minutes. That's a skill, and it's one we teach step by step inside our community. Some members are already building channels doing exactly this. Okay, back to your money. First, calculate your actual number tonight, not your income, your spending. Add up what you really spend in a year, multiply by 25, and there it is, your freedom number.
It takes 5 minutes, and most people have never once done this math. You can't hit a target you've never named. Second, attack the big three, not the lattes. Your number is built on your spending, and your spending is dominated by 3 things: housing, transportation, and food. Shaving the big three doesn't just save you money today, it lowers your freedom number permanently, because a cheaper life needs a smaller pile. Cutting your spending by $10,000 a year drops your number by $250,000. That coffee you skip saves you a few bucks. The car you don't finance saves you $250,000 in required savings. Third, your savings rate is the whole game, not your return, not your stock picks. The percentage of your income you keep is the single biggest lever on how fast you get free. Someone saving half their income can reach freedom in under 20 years from a standing start. Someone saving 5% will work until they die. Same salary, completely different lives. Fourth, fund the gap, then breathe. Aim for Coast FI first. Get enough invested early that compounding can finish the job, and suddenly the pressure lifts even before you're fully free. And fifth, put the money somewhere boring and automatic. Low-cost index funds set to invest on autopilot every single month so you never have to think about it or talk yourself out of it. The people who win at this aren't smarter. They just made the decision once and then stopped interfering.
Here's the thing nobody tells you about that 6 a.m. fantasy. It was never actually about being lazy or never working again. Most people who hit their number don't stop working. They stop being forced to. They keep doing things that matter to them, just on their own terms, without the alarm clock holding a knife to their morning. The number was never about quitting. It was about choice. And now you know exactly how to calculate yours. Spending times 25. That's the whole secret an entire industry gets paid to keep complicated. You don't need $10 million. You don't need a finance degree. You just need to know your number and start walking toward it. Because that alarm is going to go off tomorrow either way. The only question is whether you're building the day you get to turn it off for good. I'll see you in the next one.